welcome, welcome, welcome. Let me find my sound window before I get started because I need to make sure that the sound is on because I've done that before. Well, welcome to the first of hopefully many recaps. My name is Michelle Williams. For those of you all who don't know me, I am the president of the Houston Education Association, one of the local teachers unions in the Houston Independent School District. And tonight, what I'm going to do, let me find my other window. I'm going to do a light recap. Hopefully, I can do this in 30 minutes because I have other things to do. But I wanted to make this a priority. Oh, there I am. For you all tonight that missed the board meeting. Now, I'm going to, it was pitiful. And I'm going to say that it was pitiful because you can't tell me that Rick Campo, Audrey Momini, and those people had miraculously had something to do on this day. Rick Campo has never missed a board meeting, but all of a sudden, when they needed after the failed bond, they're gone. Like, you can't tell me that wasn't because they didn't want to hear the public. And then they wonder why the public has no trust in them because they're so disrespectful. And Michelle Cruz Arnold came late. It's just, I've never seen, yeah. And they have nerve enough to talk about the elected board. They are the worst. And they, let's be clear, have better resumes than the previous elected board members. However, they are the most disrespectful people that I've ever seen in any position, any governmental entity position in my entire life. They're just disrespectful and they wonder why they're in the position that they're in. So, gonna get off my soapbox and let me find. Here we are. So, I'm going to go through some of the clips on the board meeting and let me go back. So, I'm going to show you who's all here. And I want her to read it so she can't say, well, that wasn't true. These were the people that were there. At 5:04 p.m. I would like to ask everyone to please silence all cell phones. A quorum of the board is present in the board auditorium. There are from my Ozan Bandy, Jeanette Garza Lindner, myself, Angela Lamont Flowers, Rolando Martinez, and Adam Ravon. As board secretary, I'm presiding over tonight's meeting in the absence of our board president and vice president, Audrey Mominai and Rick Campo, and Paula Mendoza all had previously scheduled commitments and could not attend tonight. Michelle Cruz Arnold will be joining us later in the evening. I would like to state on the board's behalf that we... Now, how convenient is that? They all had previous engagements and could not be there. That was convenient, you know. But hey, I digress. Let's move on. They had a plethora of, let me move this over here, a plethora of speakers to whom which were children, which were some of my faves, and I'm going to show you those. Let me move forward and let the babies and move on. Okay, here's one. Let me share my screen.
Is a data sage Bittner, and I'm speaking on item 1. Because of the boring and AI-created NES curriculum and cookie-cutter and spot scores. Teachers, students, and parents are happy and feel supported by their community. This has not been the case in HISD since Mike Miles arrived. Please, bring back joy to learning. Bring back reading books and novels. Bring back certified teachers. Until then, I'm reminded of Sirius Black, who told Harry Potter, we've all got both light and dark inside us. What matters is the part we choose to act on. Board of Managers, choose to fire Mike Miles. Kids like me can't wait.
Thank you. Ms. Smith, are there any other people in the Zoom queue? No? One more in Zoom. No, in person. Student? Do we have, yes? Thank you. Before you begin, will you please state your name for us?
Hello, I'm Eliana Gottlieb. Good evening. It's been just over a week since voters overwhelmingly denied control of a $4.4 billion bond to this unelected administration. Following the election, Superintendent Miles said that the result was not a referendum on him and was due to the spread of misinformation from critics. I'm pretty sure that this packed house behind me will disagree with that statement. You see, this misinformation is coming directly from the teachers, students, and faculty that you oversee. Is it misinformation that we are supposed to study a novel in English this year, but are now analyzing short paragraphs that are frankly quite boring and all sound exactly the same? Is it misinformation that my teachers always seem stressed out, or that my principal was forced to resign? No, these are facts directly from the source. I hope you will listen to them, and in the light of the bond vote, which was definitely a referendum on this board, you will involve the community in more decisions that affect us. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will call in-person speakers to the microphone for agenda item 2.
So they proceed after the children. That was some of the students that spoke. And it's funny because at one time, I can remember Miles said that he asked the parents at Bel Air not to allow their children to speak because it was a traumatic experience. Not, oh, yeah, that's hilarious. But yes, I digress. Moving on to the next part. And some of the speakers had a few words for this absent board of managers and the appointed superintendent. Let me move back over here. All right, moving on.
If the 6 people that signed up for agenda item 2 can come sit in the first row. Miss Carly Paget, Miss Jessica Ross,
And I want to get to the guy because I really liked his.
boards that are adopted by the board
Hold on.
came on board certified school.
And she came to our Dr. Perez. I've known Dr. Perez since every time when
Despite the obstacles, our community is starting to feel optimistic with the recently selected leaders at our school. We have recently noticed that you are hearing our needs and have placed a significant emphasis on the IB program. We appreciate this positive development.
This is the PTA president.
Working with you to achieve the goals of the Harvard community. This includes protecting the integrity of the IB-PYP framework and fostering a positive and productive work environment for our dedicated teachers. By supporting them, we enable them to focus on educating our children and educating and encouraging them to return year after year. Lastly, it's crucial to address the need for HISD to improve its community and stakeholder engagement. The current level has been so insufficient that our community felt compelled to sacrifice its needs by voting down the bond. We urge you to take the meaningful steps to.
Thank you. Christy Brewster, please.
Good evening. I'm Christy Michelle Brewster, retired certified school nurse. We, the concerned community of Houston ISD, conducted our own external audit, the bond election. initiated that fake, phony, made-up, not ever successful curriculum that ignores SPAN accommodations in 504. You dissolve what we had as a wraparound program. Now the parents have to swim through muddy water, swing on poison ivy vines to get somewhere to hope they get help. What happened to our risk management department? You know, the one that's supposed to keep up with the AEDs? You do recall Marshall Middle School, don't you? And that Sunset Center, it's not a sunrise. So help us to make this work, board.
Mr. Brian Colburn.
Good afternoon. I'm a first-time speaker, and as a parent, like many others in the room, I received this email from Mike Miles on November 5th. How dare you send this to parents? We are here supporting our children, and you are saying that we are playing politics? You're unelected, and you need to be gone. We want your resignation tonight, and this is what you just did to the whole community.
So, needless to say, the community is upset. And if you're watching this from, not Houston, or if you've never attended a board meeting, welcome to my recap. The parents are upset, and for good reason, because you have a person who, let me add this, he doesn't even have a driver's license that matches the state of Texas. He's not a resident of Texas. He's just holding up shop here. And he has the unmitigated gall to make a statement on his little chicken circuit of news stations that, oh, the voters are the parents. They're the parents. So you're saying with your disrespectful self that the parents don't care about their own children because they wouldn't open their purse strings to you to mismanage money that you've already mismanaged in HISD. So, yeah, but you won't listen to them about their children and their children's needs, but yet you still want them to open up their purse strings. But let's move on to the next speaker.
Miss Laura Hammond Olvera. Miss Carly Paget. Miss Jessica Ross. Sorry. Hi. I'm a mother and a previous district instructional leader. It is time to understand the lack of trust that led to the failed bond proposal and keeps these meetings packed. The Community Circle of Trust Building Framework identifies 14 behaviors and practices to build trust. I will list areas of necessary improvement in HISD's top leadership. Listening well, championing autonomy, voice, and choice, creating safe spaces rather than toxic environments evidenced by the unprecedented exodus of teachers and administrators, transparency, shared decision-making, addressing existing distrust with humility, valuing and respecting others, vulnerability, integrity, and consistency, demonstrating competence rather than inefficient expenditures during a deficit, the rapid expansion of costly NES schools despite resistance from the board and community, or forcing compliance rather than high-quality instruction. Our kids can't wait.
It's important to note for the community that this is
So,
They deserve to go to their schools, and their parents are taxpayers, regardless of what them says. You need to take.
and that was me. So I want to get to the part where Mike Miles is giving his, let me see if I can hurry up and get to where he's presenting his information.
Demonstrate work and what happened.
No.
They're passionate. Stars summative. Still, if you look at
To clean up our school.
In a school, advocates approach lots of library. To quote Judith Cruz, or the super literature to.
Thank you. That concludes our hearing of speakers. We will now take a brief break. We will reconvene at, let's say, 8 o'clock. Convened at 8, presenting our board when you're ready.
Okay, so here we go with the data. And I'm going to tell you which piece is for me. So let me give you some backstory. I sent an email to Adam Ravon. If you don't know who Adam Ravon is, he is one of the board of managers. And I sent it to all of them, minus the three people who they are the least likely to do anything. Angela Flowers, Rick Campo, and Janet Linda Garza. No, not Janet Linda Garza. The other chick that sits on the whatever her name is. And Paula Mendoza. I don't send anything to them. That's a waste of energy that I can never get back. So I don't. I sent an email to the board of managers telling them that MAP NWE data does not correlate with STAR data. So I'm assuming Mr. Ravon brought this to his attention, and the data, he says, well, it does correlate. It does not. Fort Worth ISD, that was one of their issues, and Northside in San Antonio, Northside ISD got rid of map data because they said it does not help them with predicting the issues that students are having with instruction. I can drop the link to the articles in the comment section at the end. So I'm going to let you hear what he says, and I'm going to jump in and let you know why what he's saying is false, of the million false statements that he has made.
Thank you for giving me time to talk about goal progress measures 1.1 and 2.1. Just to ground you, we do have the goal 1 there, which is about third grade reading and math on STAR. Goal 1 is reading, and goal 2 is STAR math. So we're going to talk about NWEA. And it's important to know that NWEA we use for progress monitoring, STAR summative. Still, if you look at NWEA meets and masters.
And let me stop him there. There's a difference between universal screening and progress monitoring. NWA is not used for progress monitoring in HISD. Progress monitoring has to do with tier 2 instruction. This is universal screening. We screen all of the children. The MOY, BOY, EOY is universal screening. It is not progress monitoring. Tier 2 students are students that are a little bit below grade level. They're supposed to be progress monitored twice a week to see if they're making gains along with small group instruction. Tier 3 students are supposed to be pulled out and get intervention more frequently. But ask me if that's happening in HISD. It's not. So I wanted to clear that up because this is not progress monitoring. This is universal screening.
So meets plus and STAR meets plus. They overlap considerably. In other words, it's very correlative. So the correlation between the two is somewhere between 0.7 and 0.8, and that's a high correlation, high reliability. In this case, in this specific instance, it's 84% predictive of what the students will be able to do on the STAR exam. So it's not 100% overlap, but it's really a high correlation. So that's why it's important to look at NWEA and looking at meets and masters. First, again, goal 1 and goal 2 before we look at the progress measures is about.
Okay, so again, he doesn't even go into the other children. It's easy to predict kids that are on grade level, meets and masters above grade level, but there are two other categories that he totally disregarded. That's the approaches below grade level and your did not meets, who are kids who are not even close to being on grade level, which, let's be clear, HISD has a lot of them, but he didn't show that data because he doesn't want you all to know that it doesn't predict where those children are going to fall and the issues that they have with instruction. I'm not going to show all of his stuff because it makes no sense. If you think HISD is not really making any gains, because if you think 1% is a lot, it's not. He said his goal, and the board of managers who have impeccable resumes, I'll never take that from them, said that he could move HISD, what did they say, 1% overall? And he was like, that's a lot. No, it's not. It's not a lot. If you have quality things in place, those kids will, they will meet the criteria. I'm trying to do two things at one time. I was trying to find my chat window. They said, yeah, board chairs are empty. Absolutely. So those are not, that stuff does not, and I'm trying to break it down for you all so you can understand what is not being said. NWA MAP does not correlate with STAR. And I want you all to keep that in mind. All it is, first of all, there are two different tests. STAR is a criterion reference test. It has a set standard and it has a set goal. A norm reference test, a criterion reference test for people who are not educators. It's like your exam that you take in your classroom, or your final exam, or your semester exam. That's what STAR is like. The norm reference test, NWEA, is like SAT, ACT. They are nothing alike. Nothing. Because one is based on what you have been taught, and the other one is it's not even based on a curriculum. Your STAR test is based on Texas's curriculum. NWA is not based on any curriculum. It's based on a set of skills. That's why it's not a good indicator of success for STAR. There have been children who were not supposed to pass the STAR test based on NWA that passed and passed at high levels. It is not a good indicator of success for children. I don't care what they say. And I have the proof. Two school districts in Texas have gotten rid of it because it doesn't do what it says it does. And there's other things. I mean, if you're listening and watching this, do your research and search Google. You'll find other states that have issues with NWA, but since everybody's friends and contracts are really important, we get stuck with NWA. So I'm going to move on because this is a waste of time and I'm not. So let's listen to these board of managers.
We looked at the impact to students who are proficient or already at needs grade level, seeing a curriculum that is only being implemented at fidelity at grade level versus more advanced needs.
So, great question. The direct instruction is grade level. Once it's differentiated, it's above grade level. So the S2 and the advanced.
And that's not true. Once it's differentiated, it's above grade level. That's not true. Differentiation means that it is differentiated at the child's grade level. So when you hear him saying these things, that's not true. You can Google differentiation on your own what it is. It's differentiated at the child's level. That's it, that's all. And what he just told him, it's false.
For the NES. The S2 and advanced are higher than grade level. So those students who are performing above grade level get above grade level material to use. But you're right, the basic first instruction is grade level instruction, which in schools that are low proficiency, and keep in mind the NES started with the lowest schools, the D and F campuses. The schools we added were PUA that were F and low D, and then
And that's not true either. There were A campuses because remember, there were A campuses that were dumped into the NES system because he said, "Oh, we have to take the whole feeder." So don't believe that. They didn't start with all of the DNF schools because the ones that were truly F schools were the first 28, or not even that. So him saying that, that's not true. They didn't take all of them. You know why? Because Atherton was not an F school. When they got to school, it was B, but it's F now after NES. It's an F school. And then they got nerve enough to blame the principals and the teachers at the school. It's their curriculum. And it ain't even curriculum. It's your instructional resources that you have shoved down their throat. And then you got nerve enough to move the principal and the teachers because your stuff didn't work. All the mistakes. It is a horrible instructional resource. It's horrible. We've seen it in the press. You've seen it, especially if your children go to it. It is a horrible resource.
schools with a higher D volunteer. Those were the 45 added. So the NES predominantly, and yes, there were like 4 or 5 schools that were B in the original.
Not true.
Original volunteers, the 57. But predominantly low performance. So having grade level direct instruction was huge, and then making sure that kids who are still advanced, even in those low performing schools.
Here's my question. He's talking about something that he knows nothing about. He was not in Houston ISD. It's huge, as if the children were working below grade level. That is not true. I worked in that area for 6 years. I've done Cashmere Gardens, I've done Cashmere High School, and I've done Forest Brook. We've always done tier 1 instruction. That's on grade level instruction. We scaffolded before we even knew who this man was. So don't believe the hype about, oh, teachers were teaching below grade level. He wasn't here. He doesn't even know what was going on in HISD. He has no firsthand knowledge of what was taking place in not one school in Houston Independent School District because he wasn't here. I've been working in HISD consistently since 2014, over 10 years. So no, that was not happening. So let's be clear. Don't believe that garbage about, oh, they wasn't teaching that's a lie.
Get higher material, that's taken care of by the LSC part.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think I'll say this, that over this next year, I think one of the things I want to take a look at is exactly that, how much more advanced our students are becoming, the ones who are going to the team centers, because our data reflects that some of those kids are going to non-NES kids, right? Non-NES campuses. So that's my concern is are we challenging them enough in different ways, in different opportunities, so that they can have that experience at their local campus as well? Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I have questions, Miles. It's about the science of reading and the root cause. So I totally understand why we need the science of reading in support of the other progress. But it is a class that's being constructed about the impact of science of reading and make sure that in this first year, how are y'all internally?
Let's be clear. Science of reading for non-educators, that's a balanced approach to reading. It's the 5 components of reading. Phonetics, phonics, phonemic awareness, comprehension, vocabulary, and fluency. 5 components of reading. And when anytime you hear the science of reading, that's what they're talking about. Phonics, phonemic awareness, comprehension, fluency, and vocabulary. Now, once the children exit, I think 5th grade or higher, then that phonics and phonemic awareness goes away. And it's only vocabulary, comprehension, and fluency is supposed to. But here's the thing, the children can't read. Nothing miraculously has happened. Even the Houston Chronicle said that the children are lagging in reading because you have to teach teachers how to teach children how to read in order for children to learn how to read. How do I know? What you all don't know is I started out in 1st grade. I had a great principal who sent me to reading training after reading training. I've been trained in Night House, which is dyslexia for children. I've done reading mastery. I've also have done Scott Forsman, basal reading. I have done what else? Success for All. I've been through all those trainings, the 5 components of reading. I've done the Reading Academy for 4th and 5th grade with TEA. So when you're talking about reading, those teachers have to be trained in reading. And guess who's not being trained to teach the kids how to read? The teachers. All they're doing is going through slide decks. They are not attending training on how to teach children to read. And let's be clear, Dibbles, we had Dibbles in Louisiana, and they made us give Dibbles to our children all the way to 5th grade. Dibbles is a computer program, and it's supposed to tell you where the children are at in reading. But it doesn't, if parents in grades K, 1 and 2, if those teachers are not listening to those children read and doing running records on those children to see where their true scores are, Dibbles is not a good indicator of where they are as far as reading. No computer program can give you an exact measure. And I don't care what people say. We used to have the Texas Primary Reading Inventory. We used to have, the TPRI, guided reading, all of those things. If they're not listening to the kids read and really looking at, you can't tell because the kids, the read, Dibbles is doing everything. So be aware of what they're talking about when they're talking about these computer programs.
Making sure for consistency or how it's going, what's going on with that?
So the science of reading, the way we help with the consistency is by providing a curriculum for the science of reading. So, and it's the regular ELA class is not devoid of science of reading either. It's all connected. It's just that the science of reading class will focus a little bit more on fluency, the 5 components of literacy, and ensure that kids had that orthographic mapping if they're in the lower grades, so that kids who never got it will learn how to read even if they're in 5th grade. So the curriculum department helps with that. In the regular curriculum, in the HISD curriculum, there is scaffolding, there are vocabulary words, so we're working on comprehension, of course, but we're also working on fluency. We're also looking at vocabulary throughout. We're also adding throughout both the ELA and science of reading this notion of content.
Here's my question. All he has talks about is what we're adding. There's no support for teachers. None. Because the experienced teachers are gone. He has fired all the people where the support was. Who do you think supporting these? Nobody. Nobody. Nobody is supporting them. The mentor program that HISD had, gone. Gone. So when an uncertified new teacher they're teaching your children how to read wrong because there's nobody there to correct you. There's not. And I'm telling you what I know from what I reports I have gotten. There's no support. We have resignations. I could show you all resignations. Follow our handle. And I tweet them out as they come. Teachers are resigning in droves. They are. They're leaving. And it's not because of the children, it's because of this NES mess. Yes, mess.
Knowledge, um, which will also help kids and is part of the science of reading materials that the state and any other vetted curriculum will have.
Can I ask one other question? Just conceptually, because we're not familiar with a class called Science of Reading.
Oh, she gets on my nerves. So Michelle Cruz Arnold decides to show up when they have, I guess 30 minutes left.
The motion
Let me
passed.
go back so you see what motion they're talking about.
Lesson someone
Thank you.
see from this score that moving
Policy instruction, and so none of the students that
Oh yeah, that's the Fondren principle. Now, mind you, Ruth Kravitz put in her group CVPE that Miles intentionally stopped children at Fondren from taking Algebra 1. That was his doing. That was his doing. So for this principal to get up here and say, oh, we don't have it, he intentionally killed the program because it takes money to have any other program in there because you have to buy the materials, and he intentionally killed the program. And you don't have to believe what I'm saying. You can go to TEA's website. And also, when Miles was going on his little chicken circuit of um, news outlets, and he said that the stuff was on TEA, at the end, I'm going to show you that there are no scores from 23-24 on TEA's website. And the lie detector says that that was a lie. I'm going to show you all that because I don't have to tell falsehoods about what I know to be true. So back to the remainder of this board meeting.
GT students, do you know what that number is?
yes, I have to.
Do you know what across what grade levels?
Yes, hold on one second. I have 13 in sixth grade, 5 in seventh grade, and 11 in eighth grade.
Do you think if you asked those GT parents if they'd be interested in the IB program, would they be?
I can't speak for what they would say. I know the percentage of the participation from the survey that we sent out. I didn't get a high participation rate, but I can't say that.
Of course, you're not going to get a high participation rate because guess what? Fondren Middle School, let's be clear, had 800 emerging bilingual students in the year before the takeover. Yeah, 800 of them in some capacity. So darn near the whole school was full of kids that were English language learners. So if they're English language learners, don't you think that their parents were English language learners? Yeah. And maybe, you know what? It wasn't 8. It might have been 500. Because I thought it was 8. Because they had about 1,000 kids. But it might have been 500, 500 or 600 kids that were emerging bilingual. So you got 500 or 600 kids. So would you send it home in English? Anyway, moving right along. I'm done with that. Moving on to the Carnegie principle. Now, this was irritating to me. Adam Ravon did vote no on the Fondren vote because he felt like they shouldn't take away because they didn't have anything else on that, which was cool. Okay, because that is correct. Why would you take away IB program or some above grade as if the kids aren't above grade level? But that's fine. So then we go on to the Carnegie. There, this was disturbing right here.
We are noticing that some students are applying almost 100% that we would not are prepared and positioned for success. Thank you.
Let me go back so you can hear the foolishness.
And do I have a second? Yes. I have a motion by board member Ozan. So I guess it just
need to take a step back and think about the global nature of what the thoroughness cross placement of.
Okay, here we go.
Thank you, Principal Moss, for joining us.
This was disturbing.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Yes. All right. We've compiled a few thoughts that might help explain the rationale for our proposal. We would like to first provide a clarification regarding our admissions criteria. Our concern is not with the GPA average as a whole, but with the growing number of students who have a GPA below 2.5. We are noticing that some students are applying and being accepted even though they have previously failed classes. This raises the question of how these students can be expected to succeed in one of the most rigorous programs when they have all.
Now here's my problem with this. Carnegie had no problems with their admission criteria until Lil Baby got here, appointed superintendent. No problems. Now all of a sudden they have a problem with their enrollment criteria because Wisdom High School and the NES high schools were under enrolled. And what Carnegie did and what nobody's talking about is open their wait list and started siphoning children out of these schools. Lamar High School was taking them too because the high schools were under enrolled. Because who wants to go to a school that mimics a prison? You can get in trouble and just go down to the Harris County Detention Center if you want to carry a cone. And not even they have to carry a cone to go to the restroom. They don't have to do any of that. So my thing is, why now? Why all of a sudden that y'all have this problem? I just have a problem with people getting up here not being truthful about what's going on. And this principal seems to not have any problem with doing that.
Already struggle academically before joining. Since the introduction of a new entrance agreement, including a gifted educational plan or GEP, adapted for neighborhood schools rather than a full GT program such as ours. The school is limited by the inability to exit students when they are failing. This has resulted not only in an increased number of students with very low GPAs, but also.
And let me stop them right there. I'm GT trained. GT students, part of their profile are a lot of them are classic underachievers. Your brightest people are sometimes your laziest students. They are. Look at Bill Gates. He didn't graduate from college. Most of them don't. Why? I don't know, but that's part of the gifted and talented profile. They're always going to have that at Carnegie and other schools because that's part of gifted and talented. Some of your children that have ADHD or some of your brightest children. Why it works out like that, I don't know. But what I do know, in my gifted and talented training, that was one of the things that we talked about with GT children. They are the most sensitive because that's one of the things they talk about, nature and needs. That's part of one of the training modules for gifted and talented. They are the most sensitive people. People don't know that gifted and talented children, that that profile, they have a high suicide rate because these kids, a lot of them, they feel what's going on. Your GT people are generally your tree huggers. Those are your people that really, really care about real issues with people. And that's a good point. She said GT is not the same as high performing. And it's not. It's not. They are told they're their own bracket of children. And they have different needs than your regular children. I never wanted to be a gifted and talented teacher. I didn't. They forced me to do it. When I worked in Spring ISD, I had to teach above grade level math. I had to teach seventh grade math to sixth graders. A lot of them have anxiety. They are their own worst critics. So this principal getting up here saying this, it did not sit right with me because I know at what I was told at the beginning of the year about the high schools being under enrolled and the NES schools having to lose staff and and students because the students were leaving and going to Carnegie and Lamar because they were opening up their wait list because they were too under enrolled. But they had a saving grace and that was their wait list. They just opened their wait list and all was right with the world. But that's what this is about. And you can't tell me any different because Carnegie never had an issue. Never had an issue. Now all of a sudden, the appointed superintendent is here and there's an issue with enrollment. But I digress. Moving on. I'm not going to talk about because it's a waste of time.
Thank you so much for your clarification. Is the expectation that because these we're recommending how many vendors are here?
And then they started talking about vendors.
And then I'll ask one last question because everything we do has to improve student outcomes. Superintendent, how will this improve student outcomes?
And here he goes. And what irritates me with Rolando Martinez, he he was on the DAC, and now from what I'm hearing, he wants to run for office. And I can tell you right now, nobody is going to vote for Adam Ravon or Rolando Martinez to be anything. They cannot even be the leader of the candy stripe store. We're not voting for them because they did not stand where it mattered. All they did was played it safe. No, if you get kicked off that board, so what? It's a mess anyway. This board of managers, they should want to be off of it because their reputations that were intact when they came are no longer intact. So when he talks about student outcomes, I'm like, whatever. Yeah, they don't care about student outcomes. Because if you did, you'd care about the children that the student outcomes are attached to. And that's not happening. It's not.
So the goal for our students is to close the achievement gap, raise their proficiency in reading, writing, math, science, and the other STAR exams so we get out of DNF status, and prepare kids for the year 2035 environment. People talk about fun. We could have that as an outcome too, because travel is certainly fun. But the more important goal.
He's wasting HISD's money on travel. And the ridiculous part about it, it costs like 9 million, and HI, like the foundation is picking up 3 million. What's 3 million when you got 6 other million that is coming from some? That's a waste of time, waste of money. And then they have the unmitigated gall to be mad because the bond fell. You're wasting taxpayers' money when we are in a budget deficit. HISD is in a budget crisis. HISD is broke. There are employees that do not get paid, that didn't get paid on this last payroll. We get paid bi-weekly, and there were employees that didn't get paid. Here's a little secret. One of the teachers who worked at Third Future Schools, or one of their schools, said that they used to miss payroll, and that was the norm. So that's what's happening in HISD, but nobody's talking about it. There's some employees are not getting paid. And then, like I tell people, I said, when we talk about organizations don't move money around. Organizations, they have budgets. And once that budget is run out, that is it. But see, when you start moving around money and you constantly, it's a shell game. You're robbing Peter to pay Paul. And that's what happens. But HIC is broke. We're in a budget crisis. It cannot be fixed. And one person on Twitter had nerve enough to say, well, they have to close it. No, they should have stopped him from wasting money, wasting HVAC money. That's what they should have done for this NES mess that is not working. It doesn't work. And when he's gone, you're going to see the damage, because what he's doing is there's no there's no I'm trying to get out here. There's no test scores for us to compare it to. So he's saying the unions are spreading misinformation. I'm going to dispel that myth. Now, he said on one of his little chicken circuit interviews, he said that that's a fact, and it's on TA's website. Well, I'm about to dispel that myth, and I'm going to go to TA, the TAPR reports. And let me share my screen so you all can see this. Hold on. I want to make it bigger so you all can see. It says Texas Academic Performance Report. You can see that. It says they said 22, 23 are available. There are not any test scores or any scores that are on TA's website. If you want to go to this website, all you got to do is do a search on Google, TEA, Texas Academic Performance Reports. It gives you the reports for the schools. They can't publish the reports because it's in litigation. They sent the scores to the school districts. Well, here's my thing. If the unions are spreading so much information, send us the report. But you're not going to send that because you're going to solidify what we've been saying all along, that those scores are inflated. But that's fine. That's fine. Because what I do know, every time some information is given and he's trying to dispel what we're saying, it can be proven. There are no lies told. We don't have access. Nobody has access to the data except for the school districts. That's it. That's all. And what we have to do is depend on somebody who has been untruthful since day one about some test scores. And I don't believe it. I won't believe it until TEA releases those test scores. So that's the HISD board meeting recap. I'm going to have these every month so you all can get the real truth about what's going on in HISD. Thank you all for tuning in. If you like what you heard tonight, share this, share it with someone who needs to hear the truth about HISD. And I'll see y'all in my next live stream or at the next board meeting. Bye-bye.